Good day. The topic we are treating today is simple interest by Monserrat. The objective of this video is to understand and solve problems involving simple interest. Simple interest is just a revision of what you've been taught in your GSS2 class. So it's just going to be a revision class. We'll talk little about what interest is, principal, rate and time, and how to obtain the total amount after there has been an interest on the principal. Then we'll solve some examples. Some so solve some examples so that by the end of the lesson you will be able to calculate the interest earned on a particular amount of money, which is the principal. You'll also be able to calculate the principal if the total amount is given, rate and time, but you are not given the principal. You also have the you also know the formula to calculate the rate if the principal, interest and time is given, and also calculate the time if the principal, rate and interest is given. So now we move to the main topic. What is interest? Interest is the amount paid on certain amount of money that is saved or borrowed. It's either you save it in an account or borrow it from a financial institution at regular interval on certain percentage per annum. That is your rate. Your rate is calculated every year over a period of time. So it has a formula, and the formula for interest is the principal, which is P, multiplied by the rate, multiplied by the time, divided by 100. And the total amount will be what? The principal plus your interest, which is high. Also, you can be given the interest and some of the parameters here, and two of the parameters here will be asked to obtain the third parameter. So these are the formula. If you are given your interest, the value for interest, rate and time, and you are asked to obtain the principal, this is the formula for principal, which is interest multiplied by 100 divided by r multiplied by t, which is rate multiplied by time. This formula is obtained from here. It's obtained by making P the solid of formula. If you make P the solid of formula, the first thing you do is you cross multiply. It's going to be I multiplied by 100, which is equals to P multiplied by R multiplied by T. And for you to make P solid of formula, you divide both sides by R multiplied by T. And that's why we have I multiplied by 100 divided by R multiplied by T. So the same thing applies to when making your rate solid of formula. You have I multiplied by 100 over P multiplied by T, and your time is I multiplied by 100. I is interest divided by P multiplied by R. So those are the key formula. And after you've gotten the interest on an amount saved or borrowed, you have the total amount. Assuming you are saving the amount, you had your principal to your interest. So now we move to examples on simple interest. Just brush through. The first question says we should find the simple interest on the following. The first one says 9,200 naira. Simple interest on 9,200 naira for 3.5 years at 7% per annum. This simply tells us that what we are looking for here is interest, and here the amount of money we are to calculate the interest on is 9,200 naira. So that means 9,200 naira is our principal for 3.5 years. That means our time is 3.5 years. So at 7% per annum, that means our rate is 7%. So the same thing applies to the second question, 376 yen for 3 years at 2.5% per annum. And the third one is $1,580 for 5 years at 3% per annum. So that's the first question. Second question says a particular girl named Inkechi deposited 600,000 naira in a savings account. That is, she deposited 600,000 naira in a savings account at Spring Bank. That's the name of the bank, and the interest rate is 21% per annum. She deposited this money for 3 years. What is the interest paid on the money? So the interest she will pay on that particular money, we have to obtain it. So Femi collected a loan of this at interest rate of 20% per annum. What amount will he pay back? When you obtain a loan, when you want to pay back, you are going to pay your principal plus the interest. That's the amount to pay back. That is how loan is calculated. If you obtain a loan, when you want to pay back the loan to the financial institution, you add the interest to the principal. That will be the total amount. So the fourth question says we should calculate the length of time. From this question, calculate the length of time. It means we have to obtain the time for 800 naira to earn 15,000 naira if invested at 10% per annum. So whenever you want to answer questions on simple interest, you make sure you read the questions very carefully. For you to understand what it's talking about, you interpret it and then you solve. So calculate the length of time. From this, you have to calculate the time for 8,000 naira to earn 15,000 naira. We said interest is the amount earned on a particular amount of money. So this is the amount of money, which is the principal, and it earns an interest of 15,000 naira if invested at 10% per annum, which means our rate is 10%. We have to obtain the length of time for which 800 naira will have an interest of 15,000 naira. So now we move to the solution of the questions. The first question says we should obtain the interest on 1. We have to obtain the interest on, the first question says a principal 9,200 naira for 3.5 years at 7% per annum. So it means 7% per year. So we are going to calculate for 3.5 years, and the principal for that particular question is 9,200. Since we are told to obtain the interest, we use the formula for interest. Since interest is equal to the principal multiplied by the rate multiplied by time over 100, the first question says we should obtain the interest on 9,200 naira for 3.5 years at 7%. It means that our principal is 9,200 naira, our rate is 7. We don't need to put the percent. This is the 100 for that percent. It's already written in the formula. And T is 3.5. If you convert 3.5 to improper fraction, we have 7/2. So now we'll substitute these parameters into the formula for interest. So we have interest I equals to 9,200 multiplied by R, which is 7, multiplied by 7/2. Everything divided by 100. So if you use your calculator for this, you have 9,200 multiplied by 7 multiplied by 7/2. Everything divided by 100, you have 2,254 naira. So the interest on 9,200 naira for 3.5 years at 7% per annum is 2,254 naira. The meaning of that per annum means in a year it's going to be a rate of 7%. In 2 years it's going to be 14%. In 3 years it's going to be what? 21%. So that's the reason why you have to multiply the time with the rate. You know that the rate is 7% per annum. So for you to calculate for 3.5 years, you multiply the rate with the time, and then the principal, divide everything by 100. So the interest on 9,200 naira for 3.5 years at 7% per annum is 2,254 naira. Now we move to the second question. Second question says we should obtain the interest on 376 yen for 3 years at 2.5% rate per annum. So here is just like the first question. Our principal is 376 yen. Our rate is 2.5% or 5/2. You know, I told you don't need to put the percent. This is the 100 for the percent. You know, whenever I say 10% is 10/100, so this is the 100. It's already in the formula, so you just pick the number for the rate, 2.5 or 5/2, and T equals 3, which is the time. So now you substitute this into the formula for interest given at the beginning of the solution. So it's going to be your 376 yen multiplied by 5/2 multiplied by 3, everything divided by 100. So this is going to be what? 183 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 3/100, and that's going to give 28.2. It's going to be 188 yen multiplied by 5 multiplied by 3, everything divided by 100, and that's going to be give 28.2 yen. So the interest on 376 yen for 3 years at 2.5% rate per annum is worth 28.2 yen. So we are just obtaining interest in this question. So the third question says that what will be the interest on $1,580 at 3% per annum for 5 years at 3% per annum. So you just take what you need from the question. You know that from that question we have to obtain the interest. Your principal will be $1,580, rate is 3 and fee is 5. So you substitute these parameters into the formula for interest. That's going to be $1,580 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5 over 100, and that's going to give $237. So the interest on $1,580 for 5 years at 3% per annum is $237, and that solves the first question. Now we move to the second question. The second question says, that a particular lady named Nkechi deposited 600,000 in a savings account at Springbank at an interest rate of 21% per annum for 3 years. So from that particular question, we have to find the interest paid on the money. You know the formula for interest. From the question, we are told the amount she deposited, and the amount she deposited will be our principal, and that amount is 600,000 naira. And we were told that she deposited it at an interest rate of 21%. From that, you know that your rate is 21 for 3 years, and t is 3. So you already have your parameters to calculate the interest. So you just substitute them into the formula for interest. And the formula for interest is what? Your principal multiplied by your rate multiplied by time, everything divided by 100. So that's why we have 600,000 multiplied by 21, which is the rate, multiplied by 3, everything divided by 100. And if this is calculated using your calculator, you have 378,000 naira. So the interest on 600,000 naira for 3 years at 21% per annum is 378,000 naira. That's just the conclusion. It's as simple as that. So the third question says that Femi collected a loan of 500,000 at an interest rate of 20% per annum. What amount will he pay back at the end of the year? I told you the other time that if you obtain a loan from any financial institution, maybe a bank or a microfinance bank or some places where they lend somebody money, they will tell you that okay, we are giving you this particular loan at an interest rate of so percent, and you tell them okay, I'll pay back in 3 years, and they will tell you whenever you want to pay back, you calculate your interest, then we add it to the amount you collected. That's the amount you are going to give to us. That means whenever someone obtains a loan from any financial institution, when you want to return it, you return it, especially if it is on simple interest. You tell them you pay at a particular time, then you return the money you collected plus the interest. That's what you are going to return to them. So here we were told that Femi collected a loan of 500,000 naira, and he is giving that loan at a simple interest of 20% per annum. We are asked to calculate the amount we will pay back at the end of that particular year he collected that loan. So the first thing is that we calculate the interest. After calculating the interest, we add the interest to the principal, which is the amount we collected, and that is going to be the amount he will pay back. So from the question, we collected 500,000 naira. That means the principal is 500,000 at an interest rate of 20%. R is 20, and at the end of the year means at the end of that particular year that I collected that money. So the money is going to use just a year with him. If you interpret the question very well, what amount will he pay back at the end of the year, which means at the end of that year, that means he's going to use a single year, and then our time is 1. So interest is principal multiplied by rate multiplied by time over 100. Our principal is 500,000 multiplied by 20, which is the rate, multiplied by time 1, everything divided by 100. So if you do this calculation very well, you are going to have 100,000. So the interest is 100,000. So we have to calculate the amount it's going to pay back. And I told you it's going to pay back the principal plus the interest. So amount to pay back will be the principal plus interest. And the principal is 500,000 plus the interest, which is 100,000. 500,000 plus 100,000 is going to give 600,000. Therefore, the amount Femi paid back for a loan of 500,000 naira at the rate of 20% is 600,000 naira, and that solves the third question. Now move to the fourth and last question. So the fourth question says that calculate the length of time for 800,000 naira to earn 15,000 if invested at 10% per annum. Just look at the question. The question says calculate the length of time. Length of time means that period that you used to invest that particular money. And you know, when you invest the money, you will definitely have profit, or you call it interest. So the money he invested originally was 800,000 naira, but we don't know the number of time he used to invest that particular money. In this question, we're not given, but we were told that after he invests that 800,000 naira for a particular number of years, or for that period of time, we don't know, he has an interest of 15,000 naira, and he invested that particular money at a rate of 10% per annum. We are asked to calculate the time he used to invest 800,000 naira to obtain an interest of 15,000 naira. That is what the question is just talking about. The question says calculate the length of time for 800 naira to earn 15,000 naira if invested at 10% rate per annum. So now we know that what we have to obtain now is the time. We were given the principal to be 800,000, the interest that principal earned for that period of time we don't know is 15,000, and the rates is 10% per annum. So these are the parameters needed. P is 800,000, interest is 15,000, R is 10, and T is unknown. So we'll go back and check the formula for T. We should have know it offhand. T is what? Interest multiplied by 100 divided by the principal multiplied by rate. So we have these parameters on ground, so just substitute them into the formula. Now that's 15,000 naira multiplied by 100 divided by 800,000 naira multiplied by 10. So if this calculation is done very well, we have 3/16J. I know that this doesn't look very okay, so we know that 3/16 year is not up to a year, so we convert it to months. 3/16 year is like 0.1 0.1875 year. I know that 0.1875 year is not up to a year, it's like months. So we now convert this 3/16 year to months. I hope you know the calendar that says we have 12 months in a year. So you know 1 year equals 12 months. So for us to know the number of months 3/16 year is, we are going to represent it with x. I think we are familiar with this, we've done it several times. So for us to get the value of this x, we cross multiply. X multiplied by 1 will give x, and we have 3/16 times 12, but our result is going to be in months. So x equals to what? 12 multiplied by 3/16, and that is 36/16, which is 2.25 months. I know 2.25 months, we don't know this 0.5 months. You see, we have 2 months plus 0.5 months is what's going to give us 2.25 months. We know that this 0.25 months is not up to a month, it's like days in a month. So we are going to calculate the number of days this 0.25 0.25 months will be equal to. And you know that to convert 0.25 months to days, we already have 2 months, but we want to know how many days this 0.25 months is. 0.25 months is not up to a month. It's like some days in a month. So we want to know the number of days that will be equal to 0.25 months. And know that 1 month equals 30 days. From your calendar, 1 month equals 30 days. 0.25 months, let's represent it with y. So for us to know the days that is equivalent to 0.25 months, we multiply y by 1, we cross multiply. Y multiplied by 1, we have y. 30 multiplied by 0.25, and that gives 7.5. So 0.25 months is what? 7.5. And you know that x equals to 2 months plus 0.25 months, which is equals to 2 months plus, we've already converted this to days, which is 7.5 days. So 3/16 years is what? 2 months, 7.5 days. So instead of you writing 3/16 years, you know x is 3/16 years from here. X is 3/16 year. So we already know the months and days 3/16 year is. 3/16 year is what? 2 months, 7.5 days. So it will take 2 months, 7.5 days to earn 15,000 naira or 800,000 at 10% per annum. So that solves the question. So these are exercises for you to know if you really understood what you have been taught. This is just the revision of what you have been taught in your JS2. So it doesn't need much explanation, just for you to revise and remember what you've been taught before. So our next video will be on compound interest. So this will be the new topic. Compound interest is just a little bit different from simple interest. So that's what we are going to teach in the next video. It's also going to be with sample questions and solutions. Thank you.